So you see that cast iron pan, it's well seasoned pan. There's not a lot of oil in it, right? It's just well seasoned pan. And the reason that you don't want a lot of oil in it first is because it starts to smoke. You know, different oils have different smoke points. I run against all of that, but like canola oil has a higher smoke point than olive oil and so on. Um, but you don't want a lot of oil in the pan while it's getting hot because it starts to smoke and you haven't even done anything yet, right? So you just want the pan itself good and hot. And I don't mean like on high hot. I mean on low or medium low until it's good and hot. And it creates a radiant type of heat. Okay. That's the mistake that a lot of people make when it comes to cooking eggs or dairy. They'll slash the heat too high, too fast. And so you get too much browning on there or separating and curdling and all that stuff. What you want is a good, solid, medium low type of heat when you're cooking eggs. I know this because I used to make omelets for football players who were doing protein load and they wanted 4 egg omelets, not 2 egg omelets, and we had to flip them. And they would line up for those omelets. They took the omelets seriously. Um, so I know a lot about omelet making, and there's just absolutely no reason for us to need Teflon coating on our cooking equipment when we haven't needed it for centuries. It's just the way that we do things as Americans that is causing us to poison ourselves by requiring all these extra chemicals when we can let it heat for 2, 3 minutes, 5 minutes at the most on the stove top or put it in the oven on 350, 10, 15 minutes. And it's good and hot. You take it out with a pot holder. You want it that kind of hot. So it doesn't really require a whole lot on our part, just a little bit more conscious planning maybe. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and put some oil in here. Just a little. A tablespoon or 2. You won't need much because it's going to spread. I'm going to show you. You see how easily it spreads when the pan is getting hot. Right. And it starts to smoke a little. I'm going to focus more on the pan here. Okay. I'm going to crack a couple of eggs. Alright. So, the main thing with the omelet, I'm not using a whisk. I don't want a bunch of air in there. I'm just using a fork. You just want to bend it nice. I don't want my pan too hot. So, what the thing that is causing a problem is this genetic chemical that was generated by the Chemours plant, which was formerly DuPont. I think DuPont has now merged with Dow Chemical, and so they're in a different place now. But this genetics has been released into the Cookware River for several decades. And so it's a forever chemical that has poisoned, I say poisoned, but it has contaminated the dirt in the air and the water that it comes in contact with, right? And a forever chemical is a forever chemical. They didn't even know that the filters were not filtering out that stuff. So they found that out in 2017. So, I mean, they've done lawsuits and what have you. The state has started requiring better regulation of that situation. I'm not sure where they are now. The point is, we don't need it in the first place. We use Teflon on a lot of other things, and you know, hey, whatever you want to do is fine. But we don't need it on our cooking equipment. One of the first things that we learn as chefs and cooks and such is that if you heat those nonstick pans too high, you start getting toxic fumes from those things. You don't want to breathe that in. So to me, my mom wouldn't let it in the house. She taught us about that, and she was a lab technician. She taught us not to allow those things in the house. She would never allow a nonstick pan in her kitchen ever. So no, we don't need them. We've been cooking on cast iron and various steel and carbon steel and stainless steel pots and pans and things without needing any kind of coating on there. And so what I was explaining though about the omelette pans, that French omelette pans that we use as line chefs and cooks and what have you, is they have lines, very minute lines, kind of like the woks. And it creates thermodynamics, so that it creates air up under items and it slides much easier. And specifically geared for omelets flipping things, so it doesn't stick. Those don't stick, and neither does cast iron. If it's a seasoned pan, seasoned clean pan will not stick. Okay, so I'm just going to show you this right quick, right? So the pan is good and hot. Just let it heat up. Put the oil in there. Put the eggs in there. Cook immediately. Like, seals off the bottom immediately. Right? And it starts bubbling and everything. So here's what we do in kitchen to let it fully cook. We tilt the pan, slide this back a bit. Get the egg all done. Right? I'm just ready to mush it a little. The egg fills in. Okay. Be bold, be brave. You see how easy that comes up, right? And it's almost all completely cooked. Just like that. No sticking, nothing. Perfect. I don't mean the shape, it's perfect. No, there's no sticking whatsoever. So this is super easy stuff, and you don't have to be a chef or a culinary professional or some kind of scientific expert or anything like that to get that kind of result, you know. And so if you're adding things into your omelet, what you want to do, if you're adding things into your omelet, what you want to do is you go ahead and cook your, add-ins, onions, tomato, green bell peppers, red bell peppers, whatever, if you're using meat, whatever meat. You add those things in and just let them caramelize a little bit, and you just pour the egg on top of it. The real point that I'm making here is just let your pan get hot. That's all you really want to focus on. Let the pan get good and hot. Heat-proof pan, cast iron, carbon steel. Like it's a French omelette pan. They make specific French omelette pans that you can order from different places. But regardless, just a plain old-fashioned cast iron pan. That's it. Alright, bon appetit.